Welcome to Today's Homeowner with Danny Lipford. Expert advice on improving your home from remodeling contractor Danny Lipford and the home improvement pros from Today's Homeowner magazine.
Hello and welcome to the show. You know, over the years, I have built a lot of screen porches on the rear of homes just like this one. And about a week ago, we started on a screen porch project on this house, and it'll give me an opportunity to show you a number of things you need to think about if you're considering building a screen porch. Also, we'll look at several other porches, each one very different, each one full of ideas. Now, if you're thinking of building a screen porch, you need to stay around because we got a lot to cover in the next 30 minutes. Don't go anywhere. Well, welcome back to the show. We're really making progress on the start of this screen porch. Now, the concrete men were out just a few days ago and got all the slab completely finished. And this is the finished floor of the screen porch, so we're protecting it with all of the half-inch plywood the carpenters have laid out on top of the slab. That'll protect it from any dropping tools or the legs on the scaffolding or any lumber that may hit it. We want to really protect it because it's still kind of green. Now, the carpenters are in the process of installing the first pressure-treated rat seal or bottom seal so that they can build their walls. Now, you can see they're tightening up some bolts here, and actually this is a J-bolt that was inserted in the wet concrete that'll really hold those plates down in case of any type of wind or any shifting like that. Also, one of the things they've done is they cut out what we call a weep hole that is an area about 3.5 inches wide and about 3/4 inches high to allow any water that blows into the porch to be able to run right out. And what we'll be doing is using this piece of aluminum that will lay right down under that so that bricks can be laid on either side of it and then it can be trimmed off later. This will provide a good conduit or a good channel for any water that blows into the screen porch that it can flow right out. And that was very important when the concrete men were out to provide a slight elevation coming this way so that the water would be directed through the weep holes. Now, before we started this project, this area of the house was not a pretty sight. The structure that was here before was a poorly built sunroom with a low-quality, low-pitch fiberglass roof. The low-pitched roof allowed an accumulation of leaves and debris that caused numerous leaks that damaged the interior walls and trim. The windows were also poor quality, single-pane windows, and made it very difficult for the wall-mounted heating and cooling system to maintain a comfortable temperature. Another deficiency was the tile floor that was very unlevel. Now, once the building structure was removed, we had to get the jackhammer out and do a little jackhammer work. The reason for that is even though we poured over most of the tile floor, some of it was outside of our building area. Also, we wanted to kind of square up to this corner to get a good square building for the foundation so that the screen porch would work out great. Another reason we wanted to remove some of the tile floor in this area so that we could get a good strong footing to support the load-bearing wall that'll be resting right here where you see the blue line. While we were at it, we poured a little ledge down here that'll serve as a footing for the bricks that'll be installed a little bit later. We'll also have bricks laid on the inside to protect the walls from any weathering, since we'll have a little rain blowing in occasionally. Now, another consideration that you need to give when you're planning your screen porch is good access. Because if you don't have good access to the porch, you're really not going to use it as much as you should. Here, we've really had it made because we had an existing door leading out from the breakfast area, perfect place to bring the food out when you're entertaining your friends or family. Also, here we have a door going into the garage that gives you good access to any maybe TV trays or any chairs that you may need that you would store in the garage. Now, another thing to make this area a little safer in terms of coming out into the screen porch, we'll be building a wood handrail later on that'll come across, have a newel post here, and come down. We'll kind of have some fun with that and make it real decorative so that it'll really be a focal point when you're looking in this direction while you're using the screen porch. But the most significant change we'll make in this area is building a proper roof system. Now, this roof structure really will be a challenge over this screen porch for several reasons. Well, one, we have a hip over here, we've got a valley here, we've got all this roof surface leading right down onto the screen porch area, and right in the middle of it all, we've got a chimney we have to deal with. Well, here's how we're going to overcome that. First of all, we're going to build a ridge that'll start out right in the valley, and it'll run just about where my arm is here and tie in right to the chimney. Then on the other side, we'll pick it up and continue it on over to the outside part of the screen porch. Then we'll take rafters and build down to the roof on each side, creating long valleys that'll allow the water to channel out to the safe area over the edge of the roof. That way we can install the shingles just like we have on the rest of the roof, and it'll look like it was original structure here over this whole porch area. Now, stay with us, because when we come back after this simple solution segment, we're going to come back, show you a little progress, and give you some great ideas if you're considering building a screen porch.
Get ready to review your fix-it list as Danny and today's Homeowner Magazine repair and maintenance editor Joe Truini show you this week's simple solution. Brought to you by Dodge.
You know, old-time carpenters didn't have the luxury of all the power tools we have to use today, but they had some great tricks to make their jobs easier.
That's right, Danny. Unfortunately, most of those tricks of the trade have been lost over the years, but here's one that works really great when installing baseboard molding up against a door casing like we have here. Now, the trick is when you're installing baseboards, you want to get a nice tight fit against the casing.
Now, this is really important on any molding, because the hallmark of any good, successful trim job is good, tight joints.
Well, what the old-time carpenters used to do to ensure that they got tight joints was to make a guide block like this one. They used to call it a preacher. And all it is simply a block of wood. This is a short length of 1x4, and they'd cut a notch in it. Now, you'll notice this notch is exactly the same size as the baseboard itself. In order to use it, you just set the baseboard in place, you push it tight against the corner, and you run it long so it extends past the casing. Then you simply set the preacher over the baseboard and hold it right tight against the edge of the door casing itself, and then simply mark the baseboard. Remove the preacher, bring it over to your power miter saw or even the hand saw in the miter box and trim it to length.
And a good tip here is to leave the line. That way it's a little long, you can snap it right in place, and you get a good tight joint. Also, the preacher can be used on anywhere where you have a horizontal piece of molding hitting a vertical piece of molding, like chair rail or any other situation like that. This is a good one.
We'll be able to turn the corner of the brick right there.
Yeah, that should work great. Hey, the crew's really moving along on this screen porch project. Actually, over the last couple weeks, they've completed all of the roof framing, which included installation of the roof rafters, the roof decking. Then we had our roofer out on the job to install all of the shingles, not only on the new part, but the crucial tie-in to the old roof. That way the homeowners won't have the problems with this roof that they had with their previous roof, a lot of leaks. They shouldn't have any problem at all on this one for a number of years. Now, after the electrician completed just some minor electrical work on the ceiling, the carpenters were able to proceed on with the beaded board installation, which really makes a difference in the overall look of the porch, particularly since it's so visible from the outside. And I understand the homeowners have chosen to go with a clear finish on the wood so that you can still see all that nice, beautiful wood grain showing through once the porch is completed. Now the brick masons are in the process of using the same style brick that we have on the house, which is actually an old Chicago solid, and they're using those both on the inside and outside walls of the new porch. And you know, there's so many different styles and architectural designs for porches that are out there, and actually, I've never built the same porch twice. Architectural compatibility is especially important on a historic home like this one. Features like high ceilings and doorways, traditional railings and balusters that'll protect the lower part of the screens, and a tongue and groove wood floor all work together to make the porch a natural part of this house. Now this is a more contemporary home, and the porch is surrounded on 3 sides. This allows the homeowners to use this space almost year-round, especially since they chose a unique ceiling fan that has a ceramic heater incorporated into it. Because this porch functions almost like an interior room, the homeowners chose a ceramic tile to give the floor a more finished look. Porches and pools just seem to go together, and these homeowners wanted a sun deck above their porch. A spiral staircase gives access from the pool level, and the sun deck is floored with removable panels that allow cleaning and maintenance of the porch roof below. The porch is a simple design with a high ceiling above and a split brick floor below. Now, each of those screen porches were a little bit different, but one thing they had in common is that the homeowners tell me they use the areas all the time, and we fully expect these homeowners to do the very same. Now, the challenge we had in this area when we're building the porch is that the old structure came out to this point, had kind of a lazy radius to it. When we straightened out the new porch and lined it up with the house, we ended up with this void. Now, one option would be to pour concrete in this area and try to match the washed aggregate slab. That is not an easy thing to do at all. So the homeowners decided to utilize this as a planting bed. I think it's a great idea to plant some shrubs and some flowers in here to really create a nice warm entryway into the porch. But what we suggested is to have the brick mason use the same bricks he's using on the wall and to pour and to lay a little header block or header course all along here and on the sidewalk itself. The carpenters are in the process of putting down a real thin slab and footer so that the bricks can be attached to that tomorrow. Now stay with us. When we come back after this Best New Product segment of the week, we'll show you the completion of this porch.
It's time to check out this week's Best New Product with Danny and today's Homeowner Magazine Editor-in-Chief, Paul Spring. Brought to you by the Home Depot.
Well, Paul, I see you picked yet another circular saw as a Best New Product.
Well, I did, Danny. I just can't help myself. You know, they've been making circular saws for 75 years, but in the last few years, they've come up with a lot of innovations. This is one from Milwaukee. It's called the Adjustable Handle Saw, and really the name says it all. As you know, Danny, the problem is as you adjust depth of cut, pretty soon your wrist is in a very uncomfortable position.
Right.
Here's what they've done to change that. Just press down on that, and I'll bring this lever out like this.
Oh, you're
and
able
you
to
can
rack
adjust,
it right down.
Exactly. You got one of 8 different detents, different positions there.
Now I can see where that could really help when you're stretching out to hit that piece of, cut that piece of plywood. Perfect for that. And also, if you have it in this upright position, if you're doing those plunge cuts into a piece of plywood, sure makes that a lot easier having your hand right on top.
It's safer and it's more comfortable. It's also, this is a professional duty saw. It's 15 amps, very powerful, 3 1/4 horse. So it'll cut just anything you wanted.
I love the handle here up front that gets your left hand right where your left hand should be.
You bet. It's finally one where you're going to keep it there.
And it's great, very lightweight.
It is. It's only a little over 10 pounds. They've used an aircraft aluminum shoe. They've used a magnesium housing, really taken a lot of the weight out of that saw. And it's only 130 bucks.
Oh, only $130 with that price. Now a homeowner can really have a professional saw. Yeah, that shouldn't take long at all, John. We're in the finishing stages on this screen porch, and the painters are putting the finishing touches on. Now, you'll remember earlier we were talking about saving a little landscaped area here. Homeowners will be planting some shrubs and some flowers here a little bit later. Brick masons completed their border and their sidewalk. Of course, we had to put down the foundation for this, as we mentioned earlier, and it was made very easy by mixing the 12 bags using a gasoline mixer. So it was very easy and didn't take much time at all. Also, the carpenters finished all of the aluminum screening that was installed, and of course I really like the aluminum screening instead of other types of screen because this stays a little more rigid, easier to stretch, and it seems to hold up a lot better. Also, the painters primed and painted all of the lattice strips before any of this was installed, and all of this is treated wood, and these are a little thicker than normal lattice strips because we ripped these out of 2x4s. They seem to hold up better and really, in my opinion, just look better than the real thin strips. But it is important to prime and paint all 6 sides of the wood. Even though the back side is protected from the weather, you could still have some rain that blows in there that could cause some problems with that. Now also on porches, when you're selecting your screen door, there's so many of them out there. Just have some fun with it, choose what you like, but keep in mind how you may use the porch. Now these homeowners have no small children or no pets that could maybe run through or damage a screen door, so they were able to go with a door that has pretty much full screen with just a protective bar and support bar in the middle. Also, they were smart to pick one that was all aluminum, so it's not going to have any problem with water damage or any deterioration on that. And also, it's a big problem with screen doors, particularly wooden ones, that will sag. They're not going to have a problem with this here. Now, if you do have small children or any pets, you can buy a screen door with a panel down below that'll protect it, or they have protective screens that you can put over it for that very purpose. Now on the interior, we were able to save all of the brick walls on the original outside of the house. Then we used the same type of brick and had our brick mason create a nice little half wall around the edge of the porch. Now you remember earlier we were talking about some weep holes that we created with some aluminum channel to allow any rain that gets in here to flow right out. Or if the homeowners wanted to wash down all of the inside of the porch, it could go right through the little channels that we have. Now we're also taking some of the aluminum screening and folding it up and putting it in these channels so that the water can still continue to go out, but the insects won't come in. Now one of the more impressive parts of this porch is right up above us, the beaded board wood ceiling. And we've saved the wood grain look by applying 3 coats of polyurethane. We still have a little bit of a sheen, but overall we still have that nice, beautiful wood grain shining through. And it's really a nice contrast with all the white walls that we have with the framing that went into the screen porch. Also, the white fans that were selected, the ceiling fans, are a nice contrast, but these may look like ordinary 5-blade fans, but what's different about them are they're made for porches. That means they're resistant to any of the rust that could happen on any of the bolts or nuts, and also the fan blades are made so that they won't bend when they're exposed to the moisture that's inevitable on the outside like this. So keep that in mind when you're selecting the fans for your porch. Now, the floor, we talked earlier in the show about how we were using the concrete floor as the finished floor, so we kept it covered the majority of the project. And the score joints really serve 2 purposes. One is in expansion and contraction that's inevitable with concrete. This will control where the cracks occur. So they'll crack down in these control joints and won't be unsightly out in the middle. Also, it adds a lot of decoration and design to the floor instead of just a smooth, plain concrete with the dividing lines. Really formalizes the floor a little bit more. And we could have taken it a step further and really divided some of these other areas up, or even done this on a diagonal. But either way, this is a very inexpensive way to put down a fairly attractive screen porch floor. Now, if the homeowners get tired with it later, all they have to do is to put a floor joint compound over all of the cracks. Then they can install ceramic tile, quarry tile, or any type of hard surface. Now stay with us. We'll show you more of this porch right after this Around the Yard segment.
Now let's go outside for Around the Yard with Danny and lawn and garden expert Barbara Katz. Brought to you by Scott's Lawn Products, for a great lawn, guaranteed.
Now, Barbara, I'm sure as a gardening expert, you're asked all the time by homeowners, when do I prune my flowering shrubs? What do you tell them?
Well, I tell them that it's real confusing and that it's okay to be confused because we've got a ton of different shrubs all flowering different times throughout the country. So if I can give you a couple rules of thumb that you could get a handle on, I think they might be able to help. And the first is that if you've got a flowering shrub that flowers first thing in the spring, what it's doing is flowering on old wood.
So that's like the azaleas that I have right here.
That's exactly right. Typical example. And you want to prune it as soon as it's finished flowering, because what you're doing is encouraging the plant then to put on a lot of new growth through that season, which matures and becomes the old wood for the next season's flowers.
Okay, what about the crepe myrtle? Do we use the same guidelines for a shrub like this?
Well, you don't, because this is actually going to flower sometime in the summer and probably into the fall. So what it's doing is it's flowering on brand new wood. So you want to encourage it to get as much new wood as possible by pruning it first thing in the spring.
Okay, well, let me make sure I have it right now. So if I have a plant like the azalea that blooms during the spring, I need to prune it immediately after the blooms fall off.
Exactly.
But a plant that blooms during the summer,
You're going to prune early in the spring, and then you're going to get a lot more flowers.
okay, I think I have it right. Well, this screen porch is completely finished and ready for the homeowners to really start enjoying it. Now, here's a couple things to remember if you're considering adding on a screen porch. First of all, make sure architecturally with the roof and the overhang that it blends in real well to your home. Also, make sure it's large enough to really accommodate your needs. I'm Danny Lipford, and we'll see you next week here on Today's Homeowner.